you again. It looks like we figured out this audio issue, and welcome to our webinar tonight where we're discussing your recruiting roadmap, checking in on your recruiting process. Our goal is for you guys to have a bunch of takeaways from this webinar so you guys feel comfortable and confident using the SportsRecruits platform and tackling your recruiting process after this webinar. To introduce myself, my name is Chris, guys. You might have seen me on some webinars in the past, but my background, I went through the recruiting process in 3 different sports: basketball, baseball, and football, all at 3 completely different levels, Division I through Division III. Ultimately, I ended up playing football at Lehigh University, like you guys can see here. Great experience. Stayed an additional year at Lehigh where I worked in the athletic department, and during that time, I was a graduate assistant of recruiting and compliance. So I got to see a really interesting college coaches and administrative perspective of the recruiting process, which I now bring to SportsRecruits, where I'm able to help families just like you guys use the SportsRecruits platform so you guys can pursue your dreams to play sports in college, just like I had the opportunity to.
Hey guys, I'm Emily. So I was strictly looking D3 to play basketball throughout my entire process. I ended up at Franklin and Marshall College, which is a D3 school located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And during my time there, I was always working in the athletic department, and I was specifically the assistant to the associate athletic director. Really excited to go through this webinar to show you guys, the steps you should be taking throughout your recruiting process. And similar to Chris, I am an insights analyst where I work with families one-on-one going through the recruiting process to help them take the right steps.
Awesome.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Emily. First of all, big shout out to all you guys out there that gave us the confirmation that you could hear us. We appreciate that. So yeah, we are SportsRecruits. Really exciting time to be on the SportsRecruits platform right now, like all of you guys hopefully are, and exploring the platform. We're in every NCAA sport, and one of the things I'm pumped about this webinar is we have people from every sport viewing us on this webinar right now, which is pretty cool to see how we've grown and how important people see having this online presence is in their recruiting process. So I'm really looking forward to giving you guys some insight tonight. And another thing, just last thing here on the SportsRecruits team, we always love showing our team the familiar faces that we see coming into work every day. They're always smiling faces. We like to show this to you guys as well, so you guys know that you are working with other human beings. Most of us on here, you can even see, if you can see the text, went to and played at the college level, college athletics. So it's a great team. It's a fantastic company to work for. I love coming in every single day and helping you guys pursue their dreams. Like I keep mentioning, that's why everyone on this page is working for the company. All right, so now the reason that we're here tonight, we're here to talk about your recruiting roadmap. So I want to make sure everyone on this webinar has a few takeaways after this process. I'm giving you guys the heads up right now. This is going to be a fairly high-level general recruiting roadmap. Of course, we can get specific based on particular sport or particular topics within the recruiting process. And we certainly will in the future. We can definitely put on webinars, especially if you guys are asking for them. So, voice that. If you guys want to see a webinar on something, let us know, and we can definitely put that on. But tonight, we're going to give you a general recruiting roadmap. So hopefully you guys will have that takeaway. And then also, I want you guys, the student athletes on the webinar tonight, start evaluating where you are on that roadmap so you can see what have I maybe skipped in the past that I should have done to set up my foundation, or what should I be doing moving forward now that I have my roadmap laid out? And that goes into that next steps piece as well. Make sure after this webinar, you guys have that clear mindset of, okay, what should I be doing next? So here it is. This is the high-level college recruiting roadmap. We have it broken down into 6 steps, and I'll be the first to tell you that this is certainly not all-encompassing. Every recruiting process is unique. There's certainly plenty of people on this webinar where these 6 milestones are the 6 most important milestones for your recruiting process. And there's certainly others on this webinar where there might be pieces that are on here that are not such an important piece to your process. and also things that aren't shown on here that also play a huge role in the process as well. But this, to boil it down in a high-level sense, is what we've created for the high-level recruiting roadmap. Number one, starting out with building that list of target schools. Then your correspondence with college coaches is so important. We'll touch on that. Video in the recruiting process. This is something that it might be a little more sports specific, but it is certainly important, especially for the sports where it is a big piece to the recruiting process. Using your advocates, that's for every single sport. I'm excited to talk about that. Those in-person evaluations are so important. And then that campus visit, which typically comes a little bit closer to the finish line. So that's the recruiting roadmap. And we'll go through that one by one here, starting off with building your list of target schools.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, I'm going to talk about building your target list of schools. So this is a great place to start your recruiting process. However, keep in mind, this is very fluid. Your target list of schools is constantly going to be changing. You're going to be adding schools, taking some away until you really start to get to the end of your recruiting process and start to narrow down that list. So how do you build this target list of schools? So a lot of families, when they're looking at figuring out their target list of schools, they generally just think of the athletic fit. However, as you see here, there's so much more to consider when building that list of schools. You should consider the academic fit, the athletic fit, the geographical fit, the social fit, and finally the financial fit. So when you're thinking about a school academically, things to think about are, does this school have a major that I'm interested in? Does it have classes that I want to take? The athletic fit, what level should I be playing at? Should I be looking at Division I? Should I be looking at Division III? Also something to think about is, do I want to go on a team and know that I'm going to start playing freshman year, I'll be the star of that team? Or do I want to go to a team where I know, I'm going to have to work hard and it might take some time for me to see some playing time? Things to think about geographically. Do I want to be close from home? Do I want to be far from home? Is it important for my family to be there during my games or my matches? The social aspect to think about, the size of the school. Do I want to go to a big school? Do I want to go to a smaller school? Also think about things, is Greek life important to me? Is studying abroad something that I would be interested in at some point in my college career? And then finally, financially, this is going to be different for every single person's process. This is something to really think about once you start to narrow down that list and decide where you do want to commit. But again, just going back to my initial point, that this process is very fluid. Your target list of schools will change just like your interests change from time to time. If you are starting this process, we encourage you to cast a wide net. Favorite at least 20 to 30 schools. Also, too, keep in mind it is important to have a great amount, a good amount of stretches, fits, and safeties. Great. So messaging college coaches. I'm sure, as you all know, this is a very, very important part of your process. Unless you have Michael Jordan talent, it is important for you to be proactive and to reach out to these coaches to let them know who you are and that you're interested in their program. A lot of the families I work with, they ask me, Emily, when should I be reaching out to college coaches? When should I be messaging them? What should I be messaging them? So first is, like I said, introducing yourself and letting that coach know that you are interested in this school. It also is important to be specific. Let them know why you're interested in their school, why you want to play for them. Another reason, which Chris is going to talk about, is messaging around events, before you go to an event and after an event. Finally, an important thing to message about is letting coaches know any academic or athletic accolades. So say you get your SAT score back, you get a transcript, you get your transcript back, you break some sort of record at your school. Just letting coaches know your progression and things that are happening as a student athlete. Right here on this slide, we have just some statistics that are taken from SportsRecruits. So committed players contact twice as many schools as you see right here. And then committed players send 2 times more messages to college coaches. So again, communication is so important. I'm sure you've heard this from either a club coach, your high school coach, your parents. It's very important to be reaching out to college coaches. Great. So If not all of you, most of you are members of SportsRecruits, so you have access to our messaging system. So as you know, SportsRecruits has every college coach's email address in the nation. As you can see from this slide here, all you need to do is type in the name of the school, and then it drops down with all of the coaches. You simply click them, and their emails are embedded in the message. Also, too, at the bottom here, there is a link embedded in every single email address. Every single email that you send to a college coach. Whenever they click that link, that automatically logs them into their account, and it takes them to your profile. So as you know, with SportsRecruits, you're going to get alerted whenever a college coach goes to your profile, watches a video, or opens up your transcript. This is great because this provides transparency in this recruiting process. You're going to know who's taking the time to learn more about you as a student athlete. Great. And then video in the recruiting process. So like Chris said, video can be a nice to have or a need to have depending on what sport you play. With this day and age, college coaches, they want to be able to recruit from the comfort of their own home. They can't be everywhere. They can't attend every event. So if you have video, that's the next best thing instead of seeing you play in person. So like I was saying before, most of you do have a SportsRecruits profile, so we encourage you to take advantage of uploading video to your profile. Like I said before, you will get notified when a college coach looks at your video. Also, keep in mind, you can upload as many videos as you want, feature them on your profile, or simply just store them in the video library section. You can upload them or embed them, and like I said, super important to have depending on the sport you play.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. So yeah, let's jump on to number 4 here, using your advocates. So like Emily mentioned, video in the recruiting process, it might be extremely pertinent to your sport. It might not be as important in your sport. That's something that you guys can determine yourself based on your sport. But using your advocates, that's something, no matter what sport you guys are involved in, it is so important to use your advocates in the process. And it's something that a lot of people miss. So let's jump in here to using your advocates. So when I say advocates, I'm really talking about the people that you guys need in your corner as you go through the recruiting process. There's no reason that you should be going through this recruiting process alone. You have people in your life to help you throughout the recruiting process. People like your club coach, your high school coach on the athletic side, and then on the academic side, your guidance counselor as well. So if I can talk a little bit about the athletic advocates and the importance that they play, there's so many different aspects that your club and high school coach can help out with. They can evaluate your talent because they know you best as an athlete. It's really tough for someone to tell you what level of play you can end up at just from watching one video or seeing you play one time. The people that can give you those answers of, hey, do I belong at this level? Do I belong at this conference? Are the people that know you best as an athlete, and those people are your club coaches, your high school coaches, maybe a personal trainer, something like that. So definitely have those conversations with your advocates. Ask them, what schools do you have in mind for me? What level do you think I'm a good fit for based on the other students that you've helped go through the recruiting process? And I guess before that, really, that line you see down there, do these people know of your intentions to play in college? This is something so many families just assume that the club coach or the high school coach is aware that you're interested in playing in college. Don't make that assumption. Have a conversation, go forward and be proactive and let these coaches know that you're interested in tackling the recruiting process and playing the sport at the next level, because that club coach might have a ton of resources or a ton of connections that he can help you out with, but he or she just doesn't know that you want to go off and play at the next level. So make sure you have that conversation, whether informal or formal. That's what they are there for. They're certainly there to help you develop as an athlete right now, but utilize them for help in this recruiting process as well, because that is what they are there for. Another thing is to discuss your strengths and weaknesses with these coaches. That does a few things. Number one, it makes you become a better athlete. If you go up to your coach at a meeting and say, Coach, let me know what I need to work on. Tell me what my weaknesses are right now so I can become a better athlete. Because if you become a better athlete, that's one of the best ways to be a better recruited athlete or a more recruitable athlete. So it really helps with that. Also, it helps that club coach. It gives that club coach some ammunition when they're speaking to college coaches on your behalf. So let's say a college coach recognizes your name or reaches out to your club coach, which happens very often in various sports, and says, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about that Billy? I know he's on your club team or you're his high school coach. What's his drive like? Is he a coachable athlete? If you had a conversation with your club coach or your high school coach in the past, asking about your strengths and weaknesses, what you need to be working on in the offseason, that makes it really, really easy for that club coach or that high school coach to rattle off just how coachable of an athlete you are. There's probably not a lot of people on your teams right now that you play with that are having those types of conversations and being proactive like that. So this gives you guys the opportunity to stand out and makes it easy for that club coach to then be an advocate on your behalf. And then the second piece there, academic advocates. This is a huge piece as well. Chances are you guys have access to some kind of college counselor or guidance counselor based on the school that you attend. Loop them in on your process as well. Make sure that they are aware of your intentions to play in college. There's a lot of things that go into NCAA rules and taking the correct core courses and things like that. There's no sense in you guys or your mom and dad trying to learn all of the rules yourself. That's what your guidance counselor is there for. Just make sure, just like your club and high school coach, that you're proactive and let them know that you're interested in playing at the next level. And you never know, that guidance counselor might have a whole folder full of resources to give you for someone interested in playing a sport in college. So establish that connection early. It's definitely somebody you're going to want on your side, in your corner throughout this process. So as Emily mentioned earlier, most, if not all of you guys are on the SportsRecruits platform already. We also work directly with a lot of clubs, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have received access to the SportsRecruits platform because we work with your club directly. If you fall in that category, if you received SportsRecruits because of your club, then you have the ability to formally ask for help from your club coaches or your high school coach on the platform. If you navigate, just like you see in this video, to your schools tab, click on the drop down for a particular school that you have favorited. There's the option to request help. So what this is going to do, it's going to ping the club coach of your choosing that says, hey coach, Billy has requested help for Washington and Lee University. So that goes through to that advocate and it formally declares that Billy is looking for help right now. He's wondering if you have a connection. He's wondering if you're willing to be an advocate on his behalf. So that's a great way and an easy way to keep everyone in the loop here and on the same page. So if you guys have access to that, definitely explore that. And like I said, your club coaches are there to help you make sure you guys are using them. All right, moving on to in-person evaluations. This is another one. No matter what sport you play, of course, these college coaches are going to have to see you play and perform athletically in the pool, on the court, on the field, on the diamond, whatever I'm missing. They're going to need to see that. So in-person evaluations are so important. There are so many different types of in-person evaluations out there. Just to rattle off a few, you have tournaments, camps, clinics, prospect days, ID camps, high school games. There's just so showcases. There's so many out there, and there are subtle differences between all of them. And it's important to evaluate what those differences are. Is this an event that college coaches are going to be attending, or is this just a clinic that's teaching kids how to play and it's put on by an organization that's not connected with colleges, which could still be a great experience, but just know it might not be a recruiting experience for you. So it's important to analyze the difference between events. There's certainly, I'm sure a lot of people on here, they get the invites to a school's individual prospect day. inviting you on campus in front of the coaching staff, things like that. But it was clearly sent out to probably 500 other people or even more, anyone interested in the school. So it's important to analyze that opportunity for you and ask yourself, is this genuinely a good opportunity for me? Am I somebody on this recruiting radar? Is this school even on my recruiting radar? Is it worth it to go to this particular recruiting event? Have that conversation with your parents, have that conversation with your advocates and say, hey, we got an invite to this particular prospect day. Do you think we're a good fit for this school? And your coach can give you feedback as well. And then what I'm going to get into here is how do we make it worth it? So let's say we've signed up for that event, that ID camp, that prospect day, that showcase. You want to make sure you now make it worth it. So there's a few things that you guys should be doing before any event. And again, this can goes across any sport. Make sure you're messaging the college coaches before the event. These coaches, they don't show up to these recruiting events looking for brand new talent. They just don't walk around aimlessly looking to see who impresses. These coaches are attending with a predetermined list of the student athletes they know they want to evaluate further. So how do you get on that list? You get on that list by messaging them beforehand and letting them know that you're interested in their program. Like Emily mentioned earlier, if you're able to point out why you're interested in their program, a specific thing you like about their school or their team, that's great. Personalize that message. But then also making it very easy for that college coach to evaluate you at that event by giving them information such as your the time of your game, what field number or court number you're going to be on, the opponent you're going to be playing, the jersey number that you're going to be wearing. That way, it's very easy for that coach to put you on their list and know exactly where to find you the day of the event. You want to be sending these messages around 7 to 10 days before the event. That way, coaches have enough time to make that efficient list that they're going to use at that event. Also, be sure to include up-to-date film grades, transcript, future event schedule. So basically, make sure your SportsRecruits profile is filled out. Think of it as like a LinkedIn profile or like a Facebook profile for you guys. You don't want somebody to jump on your profile and there's nothing on there, because then people are going to assume that you just have nothing to offer. You're not keeping this up to date. So make sure you're updating all of that before you message college coaches. And then during the event, of course, play as hard as you can. You know, that's a given, and perform as best as you can. What I want to point out is be aware of the intangibles. College coaches are always watching. For some, they take more consideration to what you do off of the field or off of the court than what you're doing during the play. How are you responding to referees? How are you responding to your coaches or your teammates? If you get taken out, do you throw your helmet and take a seat on the bench, or are you there supporting your teammates, excited for the opportunity to go back in? After the event is over, one thing we hear from college coaches a lot is they look to see who's carrying the equipment back to the car. Is it mom or dad, or is the kid, the student athlete, able to carry their own equipment to the car like you guys should be able to be doing right now? And then that second point there, explore the campus. This, of course, is if the recruiting event is being held at a specific college campus, make it worth it. You've already spent the time, probably the money, to sign up for that event. Check out the other things that are going on around campus. Talk to some students while you're there. Maybe schedule an official tour ahead of time if you know you're going to be on campus for that recruiting event. But definitely check out the dining halls. You want to get that gut feeling when you're on campus, so you know you've made it worth it. It wasn't just an athletic event. It was a full college decision event. And then after the event, Emily mentioned it earlier, message the college coaches. This is a way to prolong the value of the event. So the coach got his evaluation. You're able to actually prolong what that event was for. You're able to continue the ball rolling a little bit with these coaches by just sending a follow-up message, thanking the coach for coming to your high school game, if that was the case. Or if they were hosting an event, thank you for hosting me at your event. Express your interest in the school once again. Depending on where you're at in your process, you can even ask that college coach, Where are they at in their recruiting process right now? Where do I stand? Do you have any feedback from me based on what you saw at the event? Those are all great questions to continue to get value even after the event is over. And then reassess your position with that school. That's, of course, very important. Like Emily said, again, that favorites list that you have, it's very fluid. It's going to be changing. So attending events like this is a good opportunity to say, you know what, I didn't really like the coaching staff there. I just didn't really vibe with them. I don't think this school belongs on my favorites list anymore. That's always important to do once you finish an event, or maybe you had a fantastic experience at the event. You loved working with the current players on the team, and now it's even higher on your list. So you know you have to pick up your messages even more to that particular college. So just reassess your position with that school after the event. All right, and finally, campus visits. Like I said, this can sometimes come a little bit closer to the finish line. No, by no means does it have to. I certainly visited colleges when I was early on in my process, and sometimes it wasn't specifically for my process. It was just nice to get on a college campus and start to see what I like. Do I like a campus with a lot of open space and like a rural environment? Do I like an urban campus? So there's always so much you can take away from a campus visit, but you want to make sure you're getting the most out of it. So be prepared with questions to ask students, faculty, coaches, even if it's not something organized. If you're just walking around, I was a college student not too long ago. If somebody came up and asked me a question about my school, I love talking about Lehigh. I could talk about Lehigh all day. So don't be afraid to ask those students what they feel about the school. You'll probably get a more honest response than you would if you just looked up the reviews on the .edu homepage. So that's a great opportunity to get some insight there. Also, take notes about the campus. As you guys are visiting campus, especially the recruiting process can be a very long process for a lot of people, where you're going to be visiting many different schools, and those visits, your memories of those visits, they're going to get jumbled. You're going to forget, was it Lehigh that I really liked their dining hall, or was that Lafayette? I don't remember. Write that stuff down. Take 5 minutes after the visit and write down what your gut feeling is about that school, because that's something that it's hard to replicate. It's hard to remember what your gut feeling was about a school. So take note of it. And I want to harp on that gut instinct thing because I hear it all of the time. People don't know for sure if that's the right school for them until you get on that campus. It's just like, I don't know if you guys are, some of you guys might be old enough to be driving cars right now. I don't know if anybody here's ever bought a car themselves, but I'm sure you've heard, if you're going to buy a car, you want to take it for a test drive. Just like if you're going to choose your college for the next 3, 4, 5 years, you want to get on campus and see what it feels like while you're there on campus. Get that gut instinct. Do not skip this step. This is a very, very important step to visit the school. And ultimately, that question there that you see, can I see myself at this school? You'll be surprised of how much insight you get after asking yourself that question while on a campus visit. All right, so this is the high-level college recruiting roadmap. Just to summarize a few things here, building your list of target schools. Emily did a great job talking about that, casting a wide net, especially if you're starting out early. You want to have those reach, fit, safety schools, not just academically, but also athletically. If your target list is just the best schools in the country athletically, all top 25 Division I schools, we recommend casting that net a little bit wider. Put some Division II, Division III schools on that list. That way you can go through the process with those schools in parallel to have the options once the process is coming to a conclusion, rather than pursuing these top schools only to learn that you're not a great fit there and you haven't done any work with these schools at a different level. So keep that in mind. The academic fit, athletic fit, social fit, geographic fit, and financial fit, those 5 categories, if you can check the box on each 5 of those categories, then that's a great fit in college for you. messaging college coaches, your correspondence with college coaches is key. Don't wait for them to come to you. Unless you are, as Emily said, that Michael Jordan talent, you're going to need to proactively let these college coaches know who you are and the fact that you're interested in their school. So keep messaging college coaches. It's such an important piece of the process. Video in the recruiting process, it might be a nice to have in your process, especially for some time-based sports. For most other sports, though, it is a need to have. It's become a need to have in your recruiting process. So keep that in mind. Using your advocates, those club coaches, high school coaches, they want to help you. We can make their job easy. We being sports recruits, we give them the platform as well if they're using it through their club, but also you guys can make their job easier by keeping them in the loop. Give them a list of the schools that you're interested in and say, hey, can you just give me a check or an X on all of these schools? Are these the right schools for me? So use your advocates. That's what you're there for, academic and athletic advocates. In-person evaluations, those are key as well. Those are the events that you're going to be going to: camps, clinics, prospect days, showcases. Make sure you evaluate the event beforehand so you're not going to an event that's really, there's no chance for you to get any value out of it. And when you do sign up for an event, make sure you make it worth it. Keep in mind those intangibles. That is such an important piece here. College coaches are always watching. And then finally, the campus visit. You're there, you're on campus. Utilize the resources that are around you and ask that question: can I see myself at this school? Such an important piece. The last note there, remember guys, this roadmap is useless without the grades to back it up. I know I'm probably sounding like your mom or dad or your teacher or somebody in school, but it is so true. Focus on your grades. The better your grades are, the more doors, the more options you're going to have throughout this recruiting process. I cannot stress that enough. Grades, grades, grades. It is such an important piece to the recruiting process. All right. That is what we had for you guys. We do have some time for some questions. I know it looks like we have a little bit less than 10 minutes left here. There's been a ton of questions coming in throughout the webinar. That's great. I love the engagement. Emily's been answering some questions. We've been getting some of these questions answered throughout, but let's see if we can find some to share to the public here.
Yeah, I see a lot of people wrote in asking if they can get a recording of the presentation and the audio. And yes, you will be emailed a recording of all of this. So don't worry about that. You guys can get a recording of this and keep this on file. Awesome.
All right, so here's a good question here. I think it goes for any sport out there. What is the usual grade requirement for athletic scholarships? So I'll tackle that one here. Emily, you can add anything if you want, but there's a lot packed into that question. To be honest, there is no straight answer on the usual grade requirement for athletic scholarships, but if we can back up even further there and talk about athletic scholarships, just so you guys are aware, I'm sure some people are, some may not be. When we talk about athletic scholarships, there are no athletic scholarships at the Division III level. There's still certainly opportunities for financial aid at the Division III level, and a lot of schools will say you have a better chance of getting financial aid at our school than you would at another school, more aid at our school than you would at a Division I school or Division II school in terms of an athletic scholarship. So athletic scholarships in terms of NCAA are only available at the Division I and Division II level. The NAIA also has athletic scholarships available. It ranges, the amount of scholarships available ranges based on sport. We don't have to get into the specifics there. Maybe on a future webinar, we can go through what those scholarships in particular for each sport are. But in terms of grade requirements, that not only depends on the level of play, but also the school itself. For a higher academic school, let's tag it like a school in the Ivy League or a school in the NESCACs for Division III up in the Northeast, Patriot League schools. Those higher academic schools, of course, your grades are going to have to be higher. Your test scores are going to have to be higher. What I recommend doing is go on the SportsRecruits profile page for the schools you're interested in and see what the test scores are listed on those pages and see where do you fall. Does it look like you're in the same general area? If so, then there's a good chance that you could be admitted into the school. And then it comes down to, are you the right fit athletically, socially with the team as well, and all of the questions that the coach will go through on his checklist. So it really depends on the school itself. Great question to ask your guidance counselor and also your club coach. That's a great question.
We have a good question here. Do you offer a template letter that can be used as a guide to reach out to coaches? We have so many, SportsRecruits has so many free resources. We have a recruiting guide online, and we also have a knowledge base. We have an article entitled what should I message college coaches, that goes into exactly what you should be including in emails. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And like Chris said, we're always hosting webinars talking about various topics. So I encourage you to sign up for those and to check out the knowledge base and recruiting guide if you do have any recruiting type questions.
Great. Another question seems to be a trend here. A lot of people asking about scholarships. I hopefully answered some of that in my previous answer, but I do want to harp on the fact that scholarships in the NCAA, it's kind of a myth how easily scholarships are thrown around. What usually ends up happening is you hear of your neighbor's cousin's friend's brother who got a scholarship 10 years ago to go play at a school. So then people assume that anyone can get a scholarship. Chances are that neighbor's cousin's friend's brother may not have actually gotten an athletic scholarship, and it was just something that got lost along the way, and certainly not a full athletic scholarship. It's very, very rare to get a full athletic scholarship, depending on your sport at the Division I level specifically. So be aware of that. As Emily mentioned, it's not just the athletic fit and financial fit. You want to ask yourself, is this the right fit academically, geographically, and socially as well? So make sure you're focusing on all 5 of those categories, not just what's the highest level that I can play at, and can I get an athletic scholarship?
We have a few more minutes here.
Here's another good one, Emily. I'll take this one if you want to add anything to it. Can you still email coaches and go through the recruiting process as a sophomore? Fantastic question.
Yeah.
Like you've probably heard me say, it can depend. The NCAA rules can depend on your sport, but for the majority of sports, and really any sport, regardless of the rule, you absolutely can begin your recruiting process as a sophomore, setting up the foundation to your recruiting process, even reaching out to college coaches. Just because a college coach can't respond to you as a college coach due to NCAA rules, talking about Division I and Division II level, just because they can't reach out to you, that doesn't mean that you can't message those college coaches and do the things Emily's been saying, with expressing your genuine interest in the school, letting them know what your tournament schedule is going to be at so they can come and evaluate you and watch you play. So even though the back and forth may not be there if you're shooting for Division I or Division II as a sophomore, you still can and should build up that online presence so college coaches know who they're dealing with. So when it does come time to correspond back and forth with that college coach, they already know who they're dealing with. They already know that this person's interested in their school, in their program.
Yeah, I think definitely the key to that is, a lot of people think, a coach can't reach out until September 1st of my junior year. But just to hone in what Chris was saying, just because they can't reach out doesn't mean you can't reach out then. Before that, and your recruiting process should not start then. Especially for Division I, you should definitely be reaching out way before that for the college coach to know who you are and that you're interested in their school.
Yeah, and related to that, someone I guess just messaging, but you can have full conversations with Division III coaches, correct? Yes, the restrictions on Division III are a lot more lax than the restrictions that are set in that are in place for Division I and Division II schools. that's why we think it's a great opportunity to explore those options in parallel, cast that wide net, explore options from all athletic levels as well. All right, time for, I guess, one more question here. Do you have anything you wanted to pick out, Emily? There's a lot to choose from. You guys are asking fantastic questions.
If you can find one, Chris.
Here's another good one about favoriting schools and using the SportsRecruits platform. So let's go with that. What is a good number of schools to have favorited on the platform? This is for a particular sport, but I'll just, so we don't get too specific here, let's just say in general. And I know Emily mentioned, especially if you're first starting out with your profile, 20 to 30 schools is a good number to shoot for. But that can really vary. It's really dependent on yourself. One thing we didn't show on this webinar here is the school search tool. If you guys have any questions about specific tools or usage of the platform, we do host Recruiting 101 webinars monthly with a member of our customer success team that does a great job of showing you how to utilize all of the tools on the SportsRecruits platform. So be on the lookout for those webinars. But on that webinar, you're taken through how to use the school search tool. I highly recommend going on your SportsRecruits platform after this call and going through and entering in the criteria that you're looking for in your college. You have the opportunity to enter in geographic needs, social needs, how big of the school, your academic needs. You're able to hit all of those categories and it pops out a list of schools. Maybe 89 schools are produced from that list. That's perfectly fine to then go and favorite all 89 of those schools, reach out to those schools. It's really up to you how you want to organize your process. So there is no limit on how many schools you have to favorite or how many schools, what the ceiling is of that number either. It's really how you want to attack your process. Some people like to attack it in small groups. Other people don't mind a more overwhelming approach where you're taking on a lot at once. So that's completely up to you guys. And the SportsRecruits platform allows you to organize it however you want.
Yeah, and also depending on where you start to, you start this process as a freshman, as a sophomore early on, your likes and dislikes of a school may change. So I always encourage my families to cast that wide net and keep your options open. You never know what you're going to like, what not you're going to like as you continue to grow as a student athlete.
And to build on that, another question just came in. Colleges cannot see your favorites list, so do not be concerned about that. They're not able to see that if you favorited Duke, that North Carolina can see that you favorited Duke. They can't see. That's completely up to you guys for your organization purposes.
Yeah.
The last question, I know I said the last one was the last one, but this is a good one to end on here. Is it too late to start this process as a junior or senior? Certainly not. I'm sure Emily can add on to this as well, but there are people that might get started to the process a little bit later. Just use that as motivation to get messages out to college coaches, make these college coaches aware of who you are as a student athlete, that you're interested in their program. We like to say that there's a college fit out there for everyone. It's just a matter of finding that fit. So even though you're a junior or a senior, it's not too late. There's still opportunities out there, but you have to go and get them, just like you would if you were a sophomore or a freshman. Go out and get those opportunities, message college coaches, and start the process then, and you'll see where you can go with that.
Yeah. Then also keep in mind, coaches will be transparent if they still are looking to fill that recruiting class, So you asking, they're not going to try to, string you along. They're going to tell you, yes, I can see you as a good fit, or no, we've concluded our recruiting class. So it's never too late to start.
All right. I think that does it. Guys, I had a great time sharing this insight with you guys on the recruiting process. You guys asked fantastic questions, and there's a ton of them. I can't wait to go through these tomorrow as well. There's some fun ones in here. So I want to thank all you guys for allowing us into your living rooms tonight. best of luck using your recruiting or throughout your recruiting process using the SportsRecruits platform. We can't wait to see those commitments pop up onto your page. So thanks again, guys. And
Good luck, guys.